Hello and welcome back to the Final Fantasy IX level 99 grind. I'm Circle Master, and I am unequal parts sad and angry right now. Not just because my chair is broken and I'm sitting on the cobbled together pieces of it, because my other options are a large recliner that I can't move and folding chairs that are far too short. I am sad and angry because it was announced that Android Netrunner will be ending. That is a card game published by Fantasy Flight Games under license from Wizards of the Coast. And it was decided that the licensing agreement would not continue. Given the recent revised core, the recent introduction of banned restricted lists, the recent new lead developer, I highly suspect that it was not FFG that pulled the trigger on Netrunner. I highly suspect it was Wizards of the Coast that chose not to renew the license. My baseless speculation on why is twofold, one of which is that FFG was purchased by Asmodee after the Netrunner license deal was struck, and Asmodee and Hasbro, which is Wizards' parent company, are rather large competitors in the space. Hasbro did not want to be licensing a product out to its larger competitor. Not that Asmodee is larger than Hasbro, but that Asmodee is one of the larger competitors in the space. Other baseless speculation: Cyberpunk 2077. Both the video game from CD Projekt Red and the tabletop game from the designer whose name I can never remember, but I want to say is Michael Nesmith or Jordan Nesmith, and I'm terribly sorry, not that he will ever watch this. Mike Pondsmith. I'm so bad. Mike Pondsmith. I'm nowhere near close to... I'm so bad at names. People who come in the Twitch chat, I can't even read their names. How am I supposed to remember the names of people I haven't met who designed RPGs from, like, the 80s and 90s that I haven't played since the 80s and 90s? Anyway. Mike Pondsmith is doing tabletop RPG of Cyberpunk 2077. CD Projekt Red is doing the video game of Cyberpunk 2077. Everyone is expecting a reveal of the video game at E3 in a few days, or I guess which starts on Sunday. And the original Netrunner CCG from back in the day was set in the Cyberpunk RPG universe, so Wizards may be taking back the license so that they can make their own product to coincide with Cyberpunk 2077. Not that anybody watching this cares at all about that, because none of this has anything to do with Final Fantasy or grinding, although I guess there could be grinding in Cyberpunk 2077, the video game. It is probably going to be an open world RPG. Hey, Al. Al says, wait, really? I'm not sure what you're wait reallying about. I've been kind of going off on a tangent for 5 whole minutes now. But yeah, Android Netrunner, which is my favorite card game in recent memory. Is over. OG Netrunner was not its own thing. It was set in the cyberpunk RPG universe, at least tangentially, because there are references to corps like Arasaki in some of the cards. But yeah, OG Netrunner did have that, at the very least, the underpinnings of being set in the cyberpunk universe, even if there were no like crossover characters. I mean, it's a CCG about hackers where you don't have characters necessarily represented. You just have you know, you are the character and you just have your stuff. But yeah, there was a card like Aramaki Owns You that you know, you are selling out to a corp to prevent yourself from being killed by the corp that you're playing against. So it's like it prevents you from dying, but at the same time you have to trash a bunch of stuff and take tags and do a bunch of bad stuff to yourself, but at least you didn't flatline. And it's actually a better card than Emergency Self-Construct, if I remember correctly, because Emergency Self-Construct permanently reduces the number of clicks you have for the rest of the game. Whereas Arasaki Owns You does not. Anyway, my speculation, Wizards is going to do its own, or Wizards might be wanting to do its own Netrunner thing to coincide with Cyberpunk 2077. But given the direction that FFG was heading with the game, I don't think that they were intending to kill it. I don't think that they made the changes they made and released a Core 2.0 with the intent of killing it months later. Maybe they did. Maybe it was a soulless cash grab and we should all hate them for it, but it doesn't seem that way to me, just because of the other things that they were doing at the same time. It seemed like they were trying to breathe life back into the game, and it also seemed to me that it was working. But what do I know? I'm just a dude trying to get to level 99 in the Evil Forest. So yeah, they're doing their final organized play thing at the start of September, which I absolutely am going to go to. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to keep me away from that. Well, back when I thought that Worlds would include Netrunner, I was planning to go to Worlds, but at this point, Netrunner World Championship is going to be at this September event called Magnum Opus. And it seems like they're also doing some side events. They're introducing some Android-flavored adventures for their RPG system called Genesis, which is basically a reskin slash minor update slash whatever you want to call it to the Star Wars RPG system that they have for Edge of the Empire and what's it called, Force and Destiny, and what's the Rebel called, Age of Rebellion, whatever the one where he plays explicitly as rebels is called. So yeah, that RPG system, they've put out a book for a generic version. They call it Genesis. So it's going to have Netrunner World Championship. It's going to have some kind of Genesis adventure, and there's going to be some other stuff going on, I imagine. But it seems like they're trying to flesh out the Android setting so that it can continue without Netrunner. But at this point, it seems like Netrunner is getting its own event, Arkham is getting its own event, so the only thing that's going to be at Worlds is Legend of the Five Rings, Game of Thrones, and Rune Wars. I don't even own 2 of those games, and I'm really bad at L5R, and I'm not super into modern L5R the way that I hoped that I would be. Like, I look at the card pool, and I don't know how to build a deck. I can't get it. And from what I understand, there's a lot of balance issues, and I don't want to say jank decks, but they're like purpose-built decks that are not the, just straight up try to fight and win and do the main victory condition of the game. It's try to do some alternate win con. And whether you succeed or not depends entirely on your matchup. So it is very luck-based and very matchup-based. The Legend of the Five Rings pen and paper game has been out in various editions from various publishers for quite a long time. I don't know if they're doing a new one for the LCG. It kind of seems like if they were, it would be the Genesis system, because FFG seems to be going in that direction. And I'm assuming if they licensed the property for the LCG, then they could do a PnP RPG, but then again, they didn't do any PnP stuff for Netrunner. That might have been part of the licensing agreements. That might have been just they didn't want to have too many products tied to the license. Oh, they have a beta going for it. Okay. Is it the Genesis system? Is it like the same RPG system as Star Wars FFG, or is it different? Oh, since last year. Oh my god. Well, then you should absolutely be able to answer whether it's the Star Wars system or its own system. Oh, you don't know. Okay. I've only ever played the first edition from like way back in the day. Back with the old roll and keep system. Which was interesting and super deadly. And very much... not combat oriented because it was super deadly, except they kept publishing modules that were like, here's a dungeon crawl where you go into a place and you do a bunch of combat encounters, and it's like, who wants that? You're just gonna die. And it's like, if you are a samurai and you see an archer or two, like, wanting to fight you, then whether or not you live or die depends on how far away they are. It's like, if you could reach them and attack them, then you're fine. And you will just cut them down like wheat. But if they're like 100 feet away, then just tear up your character or like immediately surrender. Because they'll just shoot you, and there's literally nothing you can do about it. But yeah, the first edition was very much about playing samurai rather than fighting, which seems odd to say, but yeah, it was much more about politics and social encounters and I don't want to say non-violent, but there was like there's non-combat combat. Yeah, I just said that, but like intimidation style stuff as well as like dueling, but not doing just like full scale, here's a brawl. You know, no like here's two here's two orcs and a bunch of goblins in a room and you fight them, because they'll just kill you. And if they don't, then the orcs and the goblins in the next room will, because if you did survive, it was barely, and it means that you're bad at fighting until you heal. Which means that the next combat encounter is guaranteed to kill you. Yeah, I really liked that first edition setting back when the CCG first started, and there was not the accumulation of lore that bogged down the meta. Like, it got to the point that the meta story became so convoluted that they tried, like, time jumping the CCG like 50 years or something to try and say, okay, this is all history, now we're gonna have new characters and new clans, and they're gonna be some of the same old clans but also some new clans, and they're gonna have their own thing, but also stuff about the Emperor. And it was just weird, and at that point I had given up on the CCG. Why am I talking about this? I mean, I'm supposed to be grinding in this game. Which I am, but, well, player-driven lore was one of the things that I liked in terms of, like, tournament reports driving the lore. Like, at Worlds last year, which was, like, the first... I think they called it Winter Court, but it was, like, the first organized play event after the Gen Con pre-release tournament. Which was, you know, the World Champs, and then there were some side events. I played in one of the side events, and I don't remember what it was called. But in the tournament report sheet that we had to fill out for each game, we put down, you know, our names, the clan that we played, the clan that we bought influence from. And then obviously who won and who lost. And how? Like, was it a military victory or what? But you also put down who had more honor at the end. So, even if you lost, you were still able to influence things based on your honor total. And obviously it's aggregated across all the tournament reports. But yeah, I forget if we played 3 rounds or 4. But I had a terrible deck, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I had played like 3 games of L5R, the new one, in total before I went to Worlds for the side event. Or I was at Worlds and decided to play in the side event, I should say. Anyway. So it was like my 4th, 5th, and 6th games ever. And I lost every game. Like, not even close. But damned if I wasn't the most honorable in defeat. I had way more honor than any of my opponents. So I got to tick off, I was more honorable. I was the honorable one. I'm the honorable one. And in the old CCG, I was really big on Honorable Lion. And I had a deck that could do military victory or honor victory. So I got to represent that in the new game, you know, in the new version with FFG, at an official event where I was Honorable Lion, and I went down in defeat, but I was honorable. And it was tracked. I don't know if it counted for anything. I don't know if they used that data, but that data was entered in. So I'm glad that they're keeping that going. What I would not be glad about is if outside events influence the lore the way that it happened with the Honorable Dragon movement in the CCG, which I will go to the grave hating. But yeah. But it seems like they're expanding that, because in the Magnum Opus article for the final Netrunner event, there's a lot of discussion about that event shaping the future of the Android setting. Apparently, like, every person who plays is going to be affiliated either with the Los Scorpianos gang, South American gang network, or 14K, which is a triad gang network. Or, you know, organized crime, I guess is the better term for these two groups, but yeah. And then, like, your performance is gonna be tracked for which, you know, you will be given a faction that you represent for these two, between these two, and your wins and losses are going to reflect on which of these two groups gets control of, like, smuggling on the Beanstalk, which, if you're familiar with Android Netrunner, the Beanstalk is a big important thing, being the only operable space elevator. So yeah, it seems like they are trying to incorporate that player-driven lore thing into Android, as well as having it for L5R, which I like. And I like the fact that they're doing Android setting stuff in Genesis. I don't know if I'll ever play that outside of this event, because, you know, I just never seem to have pen and paper groups who want to do anything other than D&D. And even if I did, I'm super stoked for Cyberpunk 2077, so I might just do that instead. Like, if I have to pick a Cyberpunk-inspired RPG, it's probably going to be Cyberpunk. Although I do really like the Star Wars RPG systems that FFG does. I haven't finished reading through Genesis. Yeah, mechanically I really like that. I just don't know that there are enough people who like Android outside of Netrunner for anybody to really gravitate toward that. But man, do I want Cyberpunk 2077, the video game. I still haven't played the Witcher series. I'm still holding myself back from playing the Witcher series because I want to do this blind LP series. I just need a co-commentator who is, like, familiar with all of them. But, you know, obviously everybody in the world says that Witcher 3 is awesome. I have no reason to doubt them. You know, what are the odds that everybody in the world is wrong? Probably pretty slim. Which, you know, I just committed an appeal to popularity fallacy, or appeal to consensus fallacy, whatever you want to call it. Lots of people think a thing, therefore it's true. But, you know, it's an inherently subjective thing about what's the best video game. And the fact of the matter is, there are few video games that are universally lauded that turn out to be crap. I will probably sit here and struggle to think of an example. I'm sure there is one. Universally applauded Final Fantasy VII. That was easy. But for the most part, if a game is universally lauded, there is a reason for it. I've probably driven Al off at this point, which I apologize for. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to what they do with an open world RPG. I'm assuming it's going to be open world. With an RPG that is hopefully non-linear in some fashion. That hopefully has some open-endedness to it. In the cyberpunk setting with character customization. Like, that's super awesome. Like when what's it? Morrowind came out. And it came out with the creation kit, whatever they called it. Oh, you were dying in Fortnite. Well, that's how Fortnite goes, isn't it? Everybody dies but one. That's Battle Royale games for you. But yeah, when Morrowind came out and the mod creation thing came out, you know, the mod editing tools, the first thing I thought was, I really want Anesthesis. I really want this kind of first-person RPG engine like Morrowind has, but I want a Shadowrun game. I want to make a total conversion mod that turns this into Shadowrun. Because it's got like the populace and the quests and the dialogue and non-combat and combat, and you just need to make guns somehow out of these bows. I don't know how. But I want this to be Shadowrun. And so far as I know, nobody ever made that for Morrowind. Nobody ever made that for Fallout 3. Or Oblivion or Skyrim. Or Fallout 4. And obviously nobody's gonna make that for a third-person thing like, The Witcher. And while I enjoy the Shadowrun RPGs by Harebrained Schemes, they're not the, like, open-world, first-person type of immersiveness that I was hoping it could be. No, well, more like the tabletop than like the SNES Genesis versions. The Genesis version, lore-wise, was quite true to... No, not lore-wise. I think I have that backwards. Basically, between the SNES and the Genesis versions, there was reflections of both the mechanics and the lore. But it was like weirdly split up, where like in Shadowrun you could have, you know, a street, you know, a cyberware-filled shaman who also has 20 dex or strength or whatever, but has full magic and can basically do everything, and is a decker, and it was weird. But like the themes were there. The themes of like the corporate conspiracy as well as the underworld and magic colliding, and everything's run by a dragon behind the scenes. So thematically, the SNES version, I think, was a lot, and it was a lot more in tune with Shadowrun, the RPG. But the Genesis version had the systems a lot better, and I think it was more true in the specifics of things like the dock wagon. Because there's like, I remember a side quest or something, there was a plot point about a dock wagon bracelet. So like, the fine details were more true in the Genesis version, and the system was more true in the Genesis version. Obviously it wasn't perfect. But yeah, like, if you mashed those two games together and squeezed really hard, you might have squirted out something that was true to the tabletop RPG. But that's not a thing that you can do, so you couldn't. So I wanted, like, some kind of Fallout total conversion mod to make that first-person Shadowrun open-world RPG experience that was true to the tabletop game setting. And obviously that never came to pass, but I do think that CD Projekt Red specifically making Cyberpunk 2077 RPG could be really close to that thing that I wanted back when Morrowind came out. I did not know that Harebrained was acquired. Who acquired them, dare I ask? It wasn't EA, was it? It wasn't Ubisoft, was it? Please tell me it wasn't someone bad. Who did the XCOM modern games? Oh, Paradox. Paradox is not bad. What is bad is I bought BattleTech day one, and it refused to run. Every time I would run the game, it would play the opening and then crash the desktop. And I was upset, but I love BattleTech, and I did not want to do a refund or return through Steam, because I'm waiting for patch updates and driver updates, and I'm confident that it will be playable. I'm sure it is already. And that's also turn-based strategy. So I'm confident that Harebrained Schemes owned by Paradox could still do turn-based strategy RPG like the previous Shadowrun games were. So I actually don't foresee them changing that much. But again, that's not going to be the open world freedom that I would want out of a Shadowrun game, which honestly its best strength is the setting. Like, the tabletop RPG is so clunky in so many ways, and it's like every edition they're trying to fix it so that there's less clunkiness to the crunch and more playability, but without losing the crunch. But it always turns out broken in some way. Without even having played The Witcher, I am quite confident that Cyberpunk 2077 will not be The Witcher with cyborgs. Just because the Witcher series is a series of games based on a series of books, based on a single protagonist. And Cyberpunk 2077, we've already been told, you will be able to create your own character, so it's not going to be a single protagonist. And it is going to be based on, like, the tabletop RPG, but that's a setting, not a narrative. So I don't foresee a linear narrative coming out of Cyberpunk 2077. I say that there's obviously going to be a plot line throughout the game. I mean, there's going to be a start and an end. But the fact that they're not going to need to be married to a pre-existing narrative means that they're going to have more freedom to be more open about the storytelling and the writing. And the fact that you can play as these multiple classes, you have to be able to have different approaches, because there are classes that can't fight. there's going to have to be, at the very least, conversation options to get past things. So yeah, I don't know. I obviously don't know what the actual game is going to turn out to actually be, but I am confident that even if it doesn't meet my expectations, it's going to, or at least my expectations in terms of system or style. Like, it may not be an open world third-person RPG, it might be more linear than that, or it might be closer to The Witcher than might be comfortable for people who've already played The Witcher a bunch. But what I am confident about is their track record as a developer. It is going to be a quality, polished product. They are going to put care into it. And they're going to, at the very least, have a release or retail strategy that is not exploitative to the consumer. And for that reason alone, they should be supported. The fact that they don't do the microtransactions, the loot boxes, all the stuff that all these other major developers and publishers are pushing so hard should be rewarded. I mean, even Paradox Interactive with, like, EU4, Crusader Kings, blah blah. Yeah, here's just DLC. Here's a $5 piece of DLC. That's super affordable. Also, here's 99 other pieces of $5 DLC that we're trying to sell you. That gets really old. So yeah, CD Projekt Red coming out saying we're not doing microtransactions, we're not doing insane levels of DLC. Like what, Witcher 3 had one piece of DLC for the Wild Hunt? They might? That would be incredibly stupid of them. Iron and Wine. I don't know. It's in my Steam library. Like I said, I haven't played The Witcher yet because I want to do the blind guided LP series project at some point. Someday it will happen. Speaking of things that are happening, Fallout 76 is a thing, apparently. And it's gonna be, what, an online survival game? Huge question mark? Which, you know, is not a genre that I hate. I do really enjoy 7 Days to Die. I think part of the reason I really enjoy 7 Days to Die is because it has strong RPG elements and strong co-op. Like, I don't play public servers on these online survival games ever. But, like, best times are playing 7 Days to Die with a friend, both on a private server, and it's the two of us against the wild. So yeah, if Fallout 76 is that kind of thing where it's where you can have a private game set up where it's you and a friend against the wild, and you can build a base and you can forage for resources and defend against ghouls and deathclaws and mole rats and etc. and craft stuff. I could see getting into that as long as the system is polished. Because the settlement building in Fallout 4 was not polished. Sans thesis, you should play Fallout New Vegas, if you have not. That is like the saving grace of modern Fallout games. Well, it sounds like you should play Tactics then. Don't actually play Tactics. But my point is just, if Fallout 76 is an online survival game that you can do without massively multiplayer, without having to be on a public server, then I will be tentatively interested in it pending future reveals. Because I don't trust Bethesda to not screw it up, obviously. I don't trust Bethesda to not fill it with DLC. I don't trust Bethesda to polish it before release. But if they can somehow manage to do those things, then I could easily see myself playing it over 7 Days to Die, which honestly still has all the earmarks of being an alpha. There are systems in it that don't work because they're still being worked on. The graphics are terrible because probably because it was a compromise for the sake of the game running well or better. It doesn't run perfectly, but you know, it is one map with no loading screens and you can go anywhere, and I think in deference to things like that, they've made graphics very low res and easy on the system so that the system can support not having loading screens, being able to support tall structures and varying geography and deformable terrain and all that stuff. You know, all the voxels. But yeah, if it's just Fallout themed survival game that you can play in private co-op, then I'm willing to give it a shot. If it's more like Elite Dangerous, where it's either you play offline and you're alone, or you play online and you're in the massively multiplayer, I'm not going to be interested in being online. At which point it's a Fallout themed Minecraft, which I don't even play Minecraft anymore. I bought it like forever ago, back when it was like $5 or $10 in some kind of beta state. And they were like, hey, if you buy it now, then it's yours forever. And I was like, sure, this is mildly interesting for a beta. I will throw $5 or $10 at it. And it turned into a thing. Well, the math on estimated time is pretty easy. I do 100 fights per stream. I don't do more than one stream a day. So after today, it will take me 1,356 more streams. So a minimum of 1,356 more days. That's if I play every day. Obviously, I haven't been able to maintain a pace of playing every day. Real life happens. My chair breaking happens. If you haven't heard any squeaks, it's because I am sitting very still in this chair, because it is literally being held together by gravity right now. Like, if I tilt to the left, I will topple over. If I shift to the right, then the arm of the chair is gonna come off, or maybe just the cushion of the arm of the chair. But yeah, my new chair is not arriving for over a week, and I'm sad. Like 2 weeks, I guess. It's the 8th now. It's estimated delivery on the 20th. I'm not happy. I probably should have paid the extra for faster shipping, honestly. And I'm regretting that. But yeah, the fight counter counts down. I should probably just change that to say fights remaining or something. Just so that it's more clear. But yeah, the total playtime is probably going to be about 4 years. If you want to do it by hours, then each stream is about an hour and 40 minutes. So multiply that by 1,356, and that's how many hours are left. Depending on how it shakes out, I might roll the clock over. Actually, no, because the clock rolled over and the screen turned red on the save screen, and I was told that that means that it is keeping track of the hundreds. So I'd have to roll it over enough for the text to turn back white, and then get it in less than 2 hours from that. Which I think is actually more time than what I'm going to be... Well, it might be. It might be that I'm doing this long enough for it to roll over once, but not a second time. Like once and a half. So if I wanted Excalibur 2, I would still have to install, and just like leave the game running for weeks on end to rack up the hours. But yeah, I'm about 150 hours in, and let me see if I can do this rough estimate. 2264.5 hours. So yeah, if it rolls over every 1,000, then that's 2 rollovers, but not 3, and a long way from the 3rd. But every 100 hours, the text colors supposedly changes, but it will eventually cycle back to white, and that'll be like the window that you have to get Excalibur 2, is when the text is white and says under 2 hours or whatever that window is. Also, hey, it only took me like 55 minutes into this to actually be talking about Final Fantasy again, because I've been talking about other games, tabletop games, not even video games, at least until the discussion turned to Cyberpunk 2077. I'm honestly kind of surprised that I've been actually giving commentary this long. Maybe I should just give commentary and just turn this into some kind of weird, stupid, topicless podcast where I just spout nonsense for 2 hours a day. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Oh well. Either way, it's been something to keep me busy for most of this. About 2/3 of this, at least. wish I had something to drink right now. I will say, I recently acquired a copy of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and tomorrow morning I will get a chance to try it with somebody else, and I really hope that it's fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for it, more so than I'm excited for the D&D session that will follow, honestly. Because that's just how I am. I crave novelty, I guess. I don't know. I say that after spending so long doing the same thing over and over. It's no wonder that I crave novelty, let's be honest here. No, I'm the kind of person that will try any game once. No matter how bad it allegedly is, I want to try it once. And if it's terrible, I will never play it again. Might not even finish the game, but I want to give games a shot. I like games. I like games, I like playing games, I like trying new games. And Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is highly recommended. But it is also the kind of game that you play it once. Well, it has 10 cases in it, so you play it 10 times. Because once you do a case, you know the answer from then on. It has 0 replay value. But honestly, that's fine. I got it, like, shipped for under $40, I think, or maybe it was exactly $40. So for 10 cases, that's $4 per case, and if each case is like an afternoon or an evening's entertainment, that's $4 for an evening's entertainment times 10 evenings, and that's cheaper than a pizza, which you also consume once and then move on with your life. So I honestly think it's fine. But the fact that I can only do each of them once means I want them to be meaningful. And I would like, at the very least, the first time to be with someone, so that we want it to be social-esque. Some sort of social event. But I have been told it is a great solo game, so I may do cases by myself. I've actually thought about, like, narrating it aloud, and maybe trying to do a case as I grind. Maybe that'll be a grind thing that I do. Please don't get in a fight. You got in a fight. Maybe I'll do a Sherlock Holmes case as I grind to 99. And I'll say, can I solve the case in under 100 fights? And the answer will be no. But, in any case, I do want to share the experience, at least partially. So maybe that will be something to look forward to. Or maybe I will try it tomorrow and it will be so good or bad that... Why did I just buy... What am I even thinking? Actually, that's probably a good number to have. That's fine. I was thinking that I don't want to have too many and end up needing to throw some away. That's what I was thinking. Also, I think I didn't heal, but I'm going to save first and then I'm going to heal. Because... yeah, get out of this stupid menu. I did not heal. Okay, now I can heal. Or now I can save. Anyway. Enough rambling. That'll do it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Unless my chair collapses into even more pieces that I cannot reassemble, in which case I don't know what I'm going to do. So I don't really have another chair option. Did this save the second time? I don't know. We'll do it. My chair has to hold up until the 20th, and I hope that it does. That is the point. And the other point is, thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to me rant for an hour about things that are not this grind. And also, like, the past 5 minutes about another thing that was not this grind. Hopefully you'll join me again sometime. And until then, take care.